Dr. David Kelly, world-renowned expert in biological warfare and UN weapons inspector. His historic legacy is his tragic death, following from his claims that the British government knew ahead of the 2003 invasion that Iraq didn't have weapons of mass destruction. Shortly after being exposed, with the assistance of senior British government officials, as the source of the claims which emerged in the media, he was found dead, apparently having committed suicide. That was 6 years ago, and this week a group of 8 doctors is releasing a dossier saying David Kelly couldn't have killed himself. They maintain he was murdered.
The primary cause of death is given as hemorrhage, and we do not believe, as doctors and surgeons, that such hemorrhage would have been so rapid or so voluminous that Dr. Kelly would have died from that. We want to see an inquest for Dr. Kelly. I think it's highly likely that it will be found that there was foul play.
Dr. David Kelly's body was discovered in woods near his Oxfordshire home. Deaths which aren't from natural causes under English law require a formal inquest hearing carried out by a coroner's court in public. This didn't happen in the case of Dr. Kelly. The inquest was suspended as the British government announced the Hutton inquiry to investigate the circumstances surrounding Kelly's death. Chaired by Judge Lord Hutton, he took evidence from the pathologist who carried out the post-mortem on Dr. Kelly, concluding the scientist committed suicide by cutting his wrists. The Hutton inquiry was legally unique, using its own rules and procedures to examine the cause of a single death. A British Member of Parliament says normal rules for inquests weren't applied.
Nobody was required to give evidence under oath. Nobody could be subpoenaed. Nobody could be found guilty of perjury. There was no proper cross-examination, and all the normal safeguards you'd expect with a coroner's inquest were simply absent. A proper inquest into the death of David Kelly, that's not happened. And even if you don't necessarily subscribe to my view that he was murdered, you would agree, I hope, that everybody is entitled to an inquest if they die a violent death.
Murdered, but by whom? Norman Baker accuses Iraqis, but isn't willing to say who he thinks ordered the killing. And the maker of a film showing in London for the first time on the 6th anniversary of Dr. Kelly's death claims it may have been linked to his work in germ warfare research.
No one really looked at his work in germ warfare, and he was really at the center of the germ war research world, and it was privy to a lot of very sensitive information, and that's one of the things that we did after looking at the forensics, is looking at the world of David Kelly, his work at Portendown, and his international connections.
In June, the British government announced another investigation, this time into the country's role in the Iraq war. It's already been widely criticised because it'll be held largely in secret. Some who don't believe David Kelly committed suicide hope the dossier will form part of the wider inquiry into the war in Iraq. But no public coroner's inquest has been held into Kelly's death, and the doctors say a proper, separate investigation must take place to find out what really happened. Laura Emmett, RT, London.